Hello, this is Woody Adams here with Intuit. I wanted to thank you for watching this short video looking at the key productivity tools in QuickBooks Accountant now, the current tools. I'll be using QuickBooks Accountant 2014, and also the key critical tools you'll find when you're supporting your QuickBooks Online clients. So whether you guys have Pro and Premier clients or Enterprise clients, or whether you have QuickBooks Online clients, there are critical accountant tools that should make you more efficient and productive, and that's what we're going to talk about. But let's dive into QuickBooks Accountant first. And a lot of these tools you probably recognize because they've been around for a while, and some they have not. So that's what we're going to talk to, and then we'll go ahead and dive into QuickBooks Online Accountant. But first, QuickBooks Accountant. We're going to look at File Manager, the new client collaborator, just an overview, reminder of Accountant's copy module, client data review, and some tool improvements there. Send journal entry, batch enter transactions, period copy, being able to have two company files open at one time, and then finally toggling to other editions. Now there's other things like the journal entry in Accountant Edition you can make an adjusting journal entry, right? So there's those things too, but these to me are the most critical things that should really speed up your cleanup process when you're working or managing, supporting your QuickBooks Pro and Premier and Enterprise clients. You can also find deep dive recordings at my QuickBooks product video.homestead.com site and just click on QB Accountant Tools. There's shorter videos there. So let's look at File Manager. And this has been around since 2011. It's an icon that installs with your QuickBooks Accountant or Enterprise Accountant, but you only need one file manager to work with both. And basically it looks like this. You guys are used to it. I have my clients over on the left and then all their company files. And it really just takes a place of me having to go to the QuickBooks file folder and kind of figure out which file I need to open for that client, and also what version was it last opened with. So that's kind of saving me time there. It tells me when it was last modified, the actual location of the file, and it supports both company files as well as accountant's copy file types and backups and portables. So you'll see your client list over here on the left, and I got 4 here. You'll have 50 or 60 or 20 or whatever, and it's pretty easy to set it up. When you go to clients and you can add clients, I like the drag and drop feature, or there's also a wizard that opens up that allows you to add the clients from file names or actually folder names. You just browse to the location and it adds it, but you can also just drag and drop into the left hand panel and it'll update as well. You can also create groups for your clients, payroll clients, enterprise clients, job costing clients, what have you. Do it by industry. It's up to you. And then you can filter by the group by clicking, the group filter there on the upper left. And of course, you can add the files one at a time. Here are a lot of company file operations, right? But there's also company operations here when you right click. So it's a very right clickable program as well. There is a password vault, so you can log into the file manager. And also, if you have a password on the file manager will log in as you, when you're launching the file. So you'll skip that login window there. You can do a batch upgrade to the current year if you want. And then finally, which works for some of the larger firms, is sometimes because File Manager is not really a multi-user tool, you could create your list there with your clients and the files and their locations where they are. And again, File Manager is just a facade. It points to the file, but it doesn't invade or monitor your server or anything like that. It's important to know from an IT standpoint. However, I can create a backup of my current file manager and then restore it into all my peers and colleagues' file managers as well, so we all have the same list. Okay. That's something important to point out. So I like to use it because it keeps all the files I use for demos, and right now I'm in this one, and I just went ahead and double-clicked on it. Actually, I double-clicked on it. It was a 2012 file. It upgraded to 14 for me, so it'll do that as well. So that's File Manager, and you guys will find it there on your desktop. Okay, the next thing we want to talk about is the Client Collaborator. This is a new tool for this year, and this is where you're collaborating with your clients from within the QuickBooks file about transactions, right? And the conversation happens in the cloud, as you can see here. So it's people ask about, but I'm going to be in my company file as the accountant. I'll be using QuickBooks Accountant, and I need the Plus version of 2014 for a Client Collaborator to be available. But my client will be in their Pro or their Premier, right? And the conversation happens in the cloud on Intuit servers, but I'm using a QuickBooks company file, or it could be an accountant's copy file. Either way, doesn't matter. However, I got my version of the file from the client, and the client's in their company file. And you might ask, well, how does the conversation get passed back and forth? Again, it's stored in the cloud. Both copies of the company file access the same conversation list, and that way the accountant and client do not have to pass any files back and forth to answer questions, and it solves for having to do all that, your emailing and stuff. We don't want you to have to do that as well, or calling them on the phone when you just have a question about things. So now I got my clients. I have a client called Guilds of Rhode Island. They sell, old Guild guitars and acoustics that used to be made in Westerly, Rhode Island, and I do their books. So they'll send me an accountant's copy. In this case, I believe I'm in a company file, and that's fine as well. And we both have an Intuit ID. We both have an ID that we can log on to intuit.com, and that's what's required as well. So I have it as my pro advisor. My client also has it. When they created their company file, there's an option under the company, my company, to sign in, and that's what they did. And this is what allows it to happen. Plus, I have the Plus version of 2014. So I do have some questions. Again, I could be in an accountant's copy file, but I'm in a company file. I got a portable file from them. Okay, so it doesn't really matter. As long as you're either in the .qbw or the .qba, this will work. In this bill they have for guitar strings, they used an item. I'm not really sure about that. I'm going to ask them about that. I also have some other questions. So what I can do is when I'm on the bill, I can click the icon in the upper right. It says Ask Client, or I can go into the Accountant menu, Ask Client about Transaction, which I'll go ahead and do right now. I'm going to go ahead and log in here. It establishes the connection. The client basically will log in as well. We'll invite each other, and then once the connection's there, then you can have the conversation. Okay, so here I am asking about the transaction and say, why are the strings not considered inventory? You might have this discussion with them, or you might ask them, about the purchase. And I'm going to go ahead and add it to the conversation list and close it for now. And I'll show you the conversation list in a second. But I'm initiating the discussion. Also, I believe they did a credit card charge recently for $2,000 for office supplies. Yeah, that's a red flag. I'm going to go ahead and click on Ask Client using the icon this time. And then I can ask client, so what was this purchase for? And this time I'm going to add and open the conversation list so you can see what kind of conversations there are. It's going to open up an internal web browser within QuickBooks. And it shows the actual transactions. I've had several, and even the archived ones, because I'm already connected with them in the cloud, right? So here are the questions I'm going to ask them. What was it down here? What are the strings? Why are the strings not considered inventory? And sorry for the typo there. And then what was the purchase for? And I'm going to go ahead and notify the client. And it's actually going to send them an email. So let's go ahead and look at it from the client's perspective, and then we'll come back to the accountant side of things. So at the client's location, remember, they have QuickBooks Pro, but they also got an email. So there's just a notification that says, hey, I have some questions for you, as the accountant, and then please go to open the company file, go to company, view conversation list, and then sign in, and then they'll be able to see the transaction list and be able to answer the questions. So this is what we're doing. We're communicating from file to file on Intuit servers, so you don't have to send a bunch of emails. Notice no link is included in here. It just gives them the instructions. Right. So, and this is not like an instant message system. You guys are going to be notified. You're going to see the notification and go in the next day or a couple hours from now or what have you. So I'm in the client's pro. This is their Guilds of Rhode Island file, and they go to company, view conversation list. And now, they sign in, and then they see their own tracking conversation window from in their profile. And then, they can scroll down and see the questions that were sent. The blue arrow are kind of new ones, right? Black ones we've already done. But so here, what are the strings for? Oh, let's talk about this. I need training on inventory, And then what was the purchase for? This was for a computer, a fixed asset. I have no idea. So, and then the client will just click here to add it to the conversation list by clicking the black arrows, and then they'll go ahead and notify the accountant. An email is sent back to the accountant, right? And then let's look at it from the accountant's view, and then that's what Client Collaborator will allow you guys to do, is to converse back and forth, from within each respective QuickBooks file. So again, back at the accountant's place of business, it's the next day or 2 days from now or 3 hours, whatever, and I just get an email, similar kind of email I just showed you, so it'll be very similar. I go to accountant, then view conversation list. So it opens up the tracking conversation window and see, yeah, okay, so I'm going to need to call them about inventory, and then, yeah, okay, so I know it's a fixed asset. So now I know what to do with the actual transaction when I actually go into the vendor center, go to the actual bill, or go to the credit card charge and I'll know what account to take it from there. So Client Collaborator, without having to use a bunch of emails back and forth or phone calls, you can communicate with your client, and hopefully that saves you time. Now your client needs to be on 2014 as well, and that's important to note. And we'll move on to the next thing, which I just want to remind people about the accountant's copy transfer service. It started on the client's end. They can either send you the .qbx file, which is the accountant's copy transfer file, through email, through our servers, right? You download it, you convert it to a .qba file, an accountant's copy file, and work in it, make your changes, and then you can send them a change file, the .qby, that they can then import into their company file. So that's kind of the workflow of the accountant's copy. It supports most transaction types. Let's go ahead and just look at some of the things within the accountant's copy, but I'm going to assume that most of you guys are using this module. It hasn't changed much, and you can go down 1 year. Actually. So if I get a .qbx file from my client that's on 13, I can bring it up to 14, work on it, and send it back to 13. Same with 12 to 13, 11 to 12, but you can't skip multiple years, right? And there are some limitations. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Okay, so, and I'm not going to show the whole process of this. You guys, it's just assuming you've already used the accountant's copy. But again, it's under the file menu. The client that's on Pro or Premier or even Enterprise would have similar submenu, except they just see their client activities. So they can either save the file and attach to an email, send it through our servers, and here's where they can go to import changes from the web. If you send it back using the accountant's copy file transfer service, remember the QuickBooks Plus 2014, that accountant's copy file transfer service using our service is free for you guys. If you're not using QuickBooks 2014 Plus, it's $10 a year, still a nominal fee. And then they can also remove restrictions, which we never want them to do. Okay, because it'll render your version mute. So here's where you can convert an accountant's copy to a QBW file. So just in case, you always have a backup if you got a QBX or QBA there. And here's where you guys would open and convert a transfer file. But to find out most about accountant's copy, I like going into the help here. And when you search for an accountant's copy, there's several under how-to articles, but two that I want to point out is, while your accountant has an accountant's copy, so from the client's perspective, based on transactions, so they can only work on transactions dated after the dividing date. Here's what they can do with accounts, here's what they can do with lists, and here's what they can do with reconciliation. So it really helps to get an overview of what the client will be able to do and not be able to do. So that's a good article to look at. Another good one is for you guys, which is what the accountant can do. So if you scroll down further in the list, what an accountant can do in an accountant's copy, and that's really helpful, and it still will break it down by list, transactions, and reconciliation. Everything that has a peach color will go back, things that are white will not, as far as when your client's importing the .qby back into their company file. And then here's a list of restrictions, basically payroll, non-posting transactions, transferring funds, billed assemblies, sales tax, online banking, that would also be unavailable, what you can add or delete. And then reconciliation, an important call out. If your client has a transaction that's dated before the dividing date, when they import that .qby file, the change file back into their company file, to undo their bank reconciliation. So it's important to choose the correct dividing date. But it's a way for you guys to actually deal with transactions and not have to overwrite their file with some backup or portable. Accountant's copy's been around for a while, and I know you guys know a lot about that. So the next thing we want to take a look at is when you actually have the file, whether you got a portable, a backup, or an accountant's copy file, is actually cleaning up the file itself and how that's faster. So we'll look at the client data review and some of the recent changes, even for this year, that have been implemented. So under the account menu, client data review, and I'm going to use the full client data review, but remember last year we added all the most popular tools so that you could just do them as one-offs without having to do a full review of the file. But I'm going to go ahead into the client data review module itself. And there it is. Let me blow it up for you. Of course, you can arrange the display of the CDR and take things away that you don't want. Here are the review notes that are for you, task notes the client could see, because I can run an audit trail this review and also save it as a PDF and send it to the client. So task notes would be for clients. This would be for you and your peers and firm notes. Important to pull that out. So you can troubleshoot account balances. Let's look at that first, and we'll just go over some of the key things. And you can click on how this works if you want to see a short video on it. Troubleshoot prior account balances. Now my review period is going to be 2015, but I want to make sure that the 2014 period is correct as when I left it, right? And I have some issues here, but it shows me anything in blue, which I can drill down to see kind of a mini audit trail of what happened. What's the difference between in the trial balance, basically? For my records that I have, as of the last client data review I did, and also for balances in the client's file, looking at 12/31/2014. But remember, it's the most current version that they have that I just got this morning, right? And then you can go ahead and click View Suggested Adjustments and actually make journal entry adjustments here. And of course, with AR and AP, remember that they'll have to do subsequent journal entries, but you can clean that up. And I'll go ahead and X out of here for now, and I can make the adjusting entry, and I can even make a reversing entry if I want to, as of 1/1/2015. Reclassifying transactions, probably the most popular tool that we have in client data review. And it's something that I'll even show you within QuickBooks Online Accountant as well. But if they wrote a lot of this stuff to, say, gas and electric, it really meant to go to telephone or something, I can check off all these checks, and then I can reclassify it to the right account, right? Even going from balance sheet to a P&L and P&L to balance sheet account. And I can also reclassify both item-based and non-item-based transactions if they just want to start reclassifying transactions in a batch. And I know you guys know this tool well. Beats from having to go transaction to transaction. This is batch functionality. But also new this year, if I go to my balance sheet accounts and click on petty cash, I can see when they wrote transactions from the wrong account. Over down under show transactions drop down, written from selected account, I can actually take all of these and move them to from the checking account, because that's really where they should have been written from. So now Batch Reclassify supports both when they write to the wrong account, that target account, like in the bottom area of the check or bill or whatever, and also when they write from that source account, right, the checking account. So that supports that as well. Other things in the client data review to point out, you can review list changes to lists. I can fix unapplied payments and credits as well when I have a payment and invoice that weren't linked, or maybe I have a check as well as a bill. I want to go ahead and link those. You can apply them and apply them in the back end in a batch per vendor or per customer. It also works with undeposited funds as well. Write off invoices in a batch is another one. Fix incorrectly recorded sales tax, one of my favorites. When they write regular checks, I can turn it into a sales tax payment check. Just void and replace, and it'll turn it into a sales tax payment check for me. So very critical things, and you can do that in a batch as well. And finally, if you do much with inventory, I can compare the balance sheet with inventory valuation. I can troubleshoot actually inventory when they sold negative quantity. All things that are helpful to see at a high level, so you know what to go ahead and clean up and fix. And you can always run an audit trail to review as well. And be an external accountant user. That's another thing to talk about. If your client sets you up as an external accountant user and you're visiting the client, you're actually at their location and they're using a non-accountant edition. If you go in as the external accountant user, you'll find the client data review under the company menu. It'll just be here. But I'm in QBA, right? So it's under the accountant menu. Another thing to mention, what if I'm not really messing with the subledger or dealing at the transaction level? I just do a lot of journal entry adjustments for this client, and I want to send those journal entries back to the client. So you can go to Accountant, Send Journal Entries. And here are the 3 journal entries I'd like to send to the client. I can email it as an attachment or save the file and email it. All the client does is double click on the attachment. A small window will open up on their side. Within their QuickBooks, it'll say add journal entries to file, and it'll go ahead and bring in the journal entries, and it'll even add and update list elements you might have added, like new accounts, customer names, things like that. And I do suggest that you do never check this box, allow recipient to select which journal entries to post to file, right? Because you're not going to be doing that. You're going to want them to add all the journal entries you do to their file. Now, I wanted to point out with this, the Send Journal Entries now supports Mac 2014. So I can actually send journal entries I do to a Mac client. So this only supports journal entries, but for Pro, Premier, Enterprise, or Mac, the work you do in your account edition, you can send the journal entries to them. And it's a real simple import. It's just an attachment in an email that they bring in. That's important as well. Now, a new feature that came out last year that's also been enhanced this year, the batch enter transaction. So this is a quick way to enter data using a spreadsheet, and you can copy paste right from a spreadsheet, or you can just put down and choose the actual payee and the account, the amount, and a memo, and do the next one, heads down data entry. I know you guys use enter to tab across, so since you're used to spreadsheets and entering data in that way, this would be a quick way to get the data in there. But also I wanted to mention is that we added, it's not just for checks, deposits, credit card charges, and credits, as it was last year for 2014 in the account edition. It also supports bills and bill credits and invoices and credit memos. So I can actually go to invoices do much of the same way, or I can copy paste from Excel. Let me show you guys that real quick. So here I have about 20, 25 invoices, and I'm just going to literally copy paste them into QuickBooks using batch enter transactions. First, I want to customize the column. So I have date, number, customer, job, item, amount. And so, it doesn't match my current columns. I can click customize columns and just choose date, number, customer, job. I don't need terms. Item's going to be up there. Don't need description or quantity or rate. It should match that, and then I can just copy paste them in. So I'm just going to go ahead and right click, copy, and just go into the first line here and go ahead and Control V, and paste it all in. It's just a real quick way to get transactions in. So this is also in any enterprise version as well, but certainly in your QuickBooks Accountant when you're either doing heads down entry or you just want to get a bunch of transactions in. So I'll clear it from now. We'll move on to the next tool here, which will be the period copy. So a few things I want to mention quickly, then we'll go over to QuickBooks Online. Go to the File menu, and Utilities. It's also under your Accountant menu as well, but I can go to Condensed Data. And since I believe it's the last year, it might have been 2012 as well, but might be dating myself a little or forgetting things, but definitely in the next couple years, you have the ability to create a period copy or transactions outside of a date range. So it's at the bottom option here, and I can remove transactions and just create a file. Let's say an agency just wants to see my 2012 data. So I can go ahead and click Next, and I can also decide how I want the transactions that are removed. How do I replace them? It always defaults to like a summary entry for month, but do I want to just do one summary entry dated, 12/31/2011? To replace all the transactions that are supported that are removed, or do I not want to create a summary at all and literally it'll lop it off and it'll only be 1/1/12 to 12/31/2012. Right? If I happen to do this one, there are some other options, of course. You can summarize inventory or keep the details. There's a lot of things of what you want to remove we've added over the years, even non-posting transactions, of course, and even classes, other names as well. But the big thing too is you might just want to do no summary entry. And that's it. It'll remove all the transactions regardless of status before 1/1/2012, and no summary of year-to-date entries will be made. So it's literally just going to be, 2012. Okay, so period copy is great. As well, if you want to see the exact edition your client's using, so when they're asking you a question you're not sure, you're talking over the phone, what have you, from the Accountant edition, it's a chameleon with Pro and Premier, right? It really is a chameleon edition. So you can go to contractor, manufacturer, I can even go to Pro. And do that. And Enterprise Accountant has something very similar. By the way, the tools I'm showing you, they're also in Enterprise Accountant Edition as well, so when you're supporting your enterprise clients too. And then finally, just the ability to open a second company, right? Have two separate company files open, and even supports dual monitors. So those are the key things with Accountant Edition that should really make you more efficient when you're working with your client files. Some of the stuff you guys will already know, some of the stuff will be new. And just remember the journal entry itself within QBA, it's very different from the one you'll see in Pro. I mean, it has debit and credit totals. It has a list of journal entries, at the bottom of the journal entry that you can just click on and go to. And then, of course, the ability to make an adjusting entry, right, that correlates to an adjusting journal entry report. Okay, so all those things are key for Accountant Edition, and just little things I haven't really pointed out, but things like the adjusted trial balance or adjusting journal entry report itself. So these are some of the things that really make QuickBooks Accountant the tool for QuickBooks consultants, accountants, anybody that's really supporting or managing your desktop Pro, Premier, and even enterprise clients. Remember, enterprise, as a Pro advisor, you get an Accountant Edition of Enterprise to work with that level of QuickBooks client. So let's jump over, switch gears. What about supporting your QuickBooks Online client? So we just talked about when you're working with your Pro, Premier, and Enterprise clients, you guys use the Accountant Editions, whether it's Premier Accountant or Enterprise Accountant. And those are the key tools we went through. However, you're going to see more and more QuickBooks Online clients come to your door. And we have created an online accountant platform for you guys. It's called QuickBooks Online Accountant. It's not a file itself, right? You are the accountant user on your client's QuickBooks Online files, whether they have Simple Start, Essentials, or Plus. But we give you a platform or a lens, and you're a free user, actually. They're paying for the subscription, and you're logging in as the accountant user using QuickBooks Online Accountant. And you've probably all heard of the big change to the new QuickBooks Online. And soon all QBO users will be in that new view or user interface. But I'm going to go ahead and sign in and show you, the QuickBooks Classic version, I should say, and then the new version, and how you can support both. So I'm going to go into my QuickBooks Online account, and I have clients that are both in the new look and the classic look. But as you can see just from the slide, we're giving you tools that are not standard to QuickBooks Online, like the batch classify, being able to make an adjusting journal entry and undo a bank reconciliation, as well as several reports. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at that. It's important to note as well, when I'm in there, I'll show you how you get invited as the accountant user. Okay, but you can easily sign up to QuickBooks Online Accountant from either the accountants.intuit.com site. You click on QuickBooks and go to QuickBooks Online Accountant, sign up, it's free, or you can go to qboa.intuit.com. Or you can just get invited as the accountant user to a client's QuickBooks Online file and go ahead and accept the invitation. You'll be brought to qboa.intuit.com. Your client's using qbo.intuit.com. You guys are using qboa.intuit.com. One letter difference, but a huge difference as far as efficiency and productivity on your side. So let's go ahead and take a look at QuickBooks Online Accountant right now. So here we are in my QuickBooks Online Accountant. And because I'm a QuickBooks Online Accountant user, which again is free to me, and I wanted to mention you can have up to 2 accountant users per QuickBooks Online company file, regardless of the SKU they're on. Again, Simple Start Essentials or Plus, you are the accountant. So my company is QuickBooks Online Plus subscription, and I can go ahead and use that for my firm file or convert from the desktop or what have you. And here's a list of my clients. Woods Lawn Mowing is using the QuickBooks Online Classic view. Soon they'll be in the new view, but I'm also going to go into Joe's Landscaping, which I have up, which is a new view. I'll show that first. But if you don't have any clients in there and you just want to see the new QuickBooks Online, click the Try It tab over here on the left, and it'll show you the absolutely new view that we have, a radical departure for those of you who know QuickBooks Online in the past. You can also add a client by clicking plus new QBO company. Notice I can literally own the end-to-end process. I can put in the company name and choose the actual subscription, even add payroll if I want. It'll just be a shell of the file waiting for me to do the, set the company file up, whether it's a journal entry or whether I'm converting from the desktop. And then the last step, I invite them as a company admin, transfer the master administratorship over to them, and then I still remain as the accountant user. But let's go ahead into Joe's Landscaping. So this is, again, very different from QuickBooks Online Classic. This will be the new view, and I'm going to show it to you first because all your clients soon are going to have the new view, and then I'll show you the old view and where the tools are, etc. But I can set the date range here for my review period for all the reports and tools that I launch. I can also see the reconciliation status and see here that, it's not complete. So I'm going to drill into the reconciliation, but first, everything in red really needs my attention. Again, you can filter the activities feed here by invoices or expenses if you want, just to see what it looks like and you know what you need to deal with as well. Now, before I dive into the reconcile, I just wanted to mention, to get to your tools, there's a gear icon right next to the company file name. And you can click on that, and here are your tools where I can go to batch classify transactions or run a void deleted transaction report, write off invoices in a batch. So these two, you'll recognize from the client data review tools in QuickBooks Accountants. We brought a couple over. Also, you can launch a new window, or you could even right click duplicate for a new window and go to a different report that you want to go to. Let's say I want to go to reconcile right now. We're going to go look at and notice where I can undo the reconciliation. Whereas on this window, I might just want to go to a register. I can go over to transactions, registers, and then let's go ahead and open up the checking account register, either by clicking go to register or double click on it. It'll bring up for you as well. And on the register itself, then I can have a register up, the reconcile window up here, and I can even peel this window off and put it on another monitor. So some cool tricks, although the new QBO is real slick as far as how to navigate. I'm not doing many new windows, if you will, as much as I used to with the QuickBooks Classic. It's just the workflow is a lot better. But please, on my website, on that QuickBooksProductVideos.homestead.com website, click on QuickBooks Online, and I have short videos on the new QuickBooks Online, as well as one longer video comparing QuickBooks Online Classic to QuickBooks Online New. And there's some accounting tips down below as well. You can chat live from 6 to 6 Pacific, Monday through Friday. And here's kind of what your client would see. This is their homepage. But these are the key tools for you, again, under the gear icon that are not standard to QuickBooks Online. And if you want to look at any, really, transaction, click on the Quick Create icon. Up in this candy bar icons here, you click on the plus sign, and here's every single transaction that would be supported in your client's level of QuickBooks Online. But let's take a look at the tools in the old view as well. I'm going to X out of there, and I'm going to open up Woods Lawn Mowing. And for a little while longer, you'll be supporting clients that have the QuickBooks Online Classic view. And again, your tools are right on the Accountant Center when you open their file, whether it's Simple Start, Essentials, or Plus from QuickBooks Online Accountant, where I can go to batch classify transactions, do an adjusting journal entry, avoid a deleted transaction report, brings me to the reconciliation. I can also set the date range for whatever tools, but all the tools are starred in green and pretty easy to find, again, in the new QBO. And when you're accessing through QuickBooks Online Accountant, it's under the gear icon. But the book to tax is something to show you as well. You go to click on tax line assignments. And here, we've already mapped the accounts for you, but I can always go ahead and drill in and choose a particular account, that I have the tax line assignment, and then I can go ahead and generate the tax return, which will open into a tax online and send the balances over. So that's, if you are someone who's using QuickBooks Online Account and you're also doing tax and into a tax online, it's just a couple clicks and the actual return is generated into a tax online. So very important to show as well. I'm going to go back to accountants, and that's the Accountant Center. So again, you are the accountant user. Let me show you where your client would go, company manage users, and down below you have accounting firms, and you can have up to 2 accounting firms, or quote unquote 2 accountants. So you and a peer or colleague in the office can be an accountant user, and this is where your client goes to invite you to QuickBooks Online. You accept the invite and you access it through QuickBooks Online Accountant, like I've been. And let's go back to QuickBooks Online Accountant and launch the new QuickBooks Online file. Manage users is found under the gear icon, manage users. Okay. So whether you're supporting clients that use Pro and Premier or Enterprise, you'd use QuickBooks Accountant, Enterprise Accountant. If you're supporting clients that use QuickBooks Online, you would use QuickBooks Online Accountant. And either way, you have critical tools that will allow you to streamline the cleanup process, make you more efficient and productive when you're supporting and managing these clients. And just overall, our main mantra with the Accountant Professionals Division is to save you guys time. I hope this has been helpful, and you guys have a great day.